Hey, this is Eric with Black Swan Odysseys, coming at you with another ride. This is the second segment of the Stonehenge ride, going from roughly Stevenson, Washington up to Stonehenge. I broke this ride up into two segments, mostly because I just wanted to explore and show you some of the attractions along the way. This second half is roughly 60 miles. Takes about an hour and a half to ride. Naturally, you could ride this whole ride in 4 hours from Vancouver up to Highway 97 or Stonehenge Memorial easily in a half a day. So why I like this route, this is a very picturesque route along the Columbia River. Lots of scenery, great river views, rock formations. This is an easy ride. The curves are very slow sweeping curves, and you've got mostly open views to all the curves. So it's actually a great ride for an inexperienced rider. Plus the experienced rider has plenty of time to look at the scenery as he's traveling. A little bit about the history of the Columbia River and the steamboat traffic. Steamboats on the Columbia was the primary way of commerce east and west. And it ran on the steamboats ran on the Columbia River from roughly the 1850s up till the 1900s, and then in the 1900s, railroads were formed on both sides of the river, both in Oregon and Washington. And those early 1900s, all the commerce left the river back to the rail and road. So the river, Columbia River, is broken down into three sections, charted out that way. You have the lower Columbia River, which is the Pacific Ocean up to the Cascade Rapids. And then you have the midsection, which would be the Cascade Rapids to Celilo Falls. And really, now modern day, Cascade Rapids is known as Cascade Locks, the township there. And Celilo Falls is where the Dalles Dam was formed. And then the upper Columbia River, which is past Celilo Falls or the Dalles, and goes up into the Snake River. And past the Snake River, it just wasn't practical to run steamboats because there's so many rapids up there, you just couldn't travel very far. The steamboats piloting the Columbia River had three different types of propulsion systems. You had the standard propeller style, you had the side wheeler, and then you had the stern wheeler paddles. And what they found is that the stern wheeler paddle boats were the primary or predominant type of boat used on the river, simply because with the side wheeler you had to have an extensive dock system to pull up alongside the river. But the stern wheeler, you could go just about anywhere and nose up to a riverbank. And a lot of the small communities that popped up along there to support these stern wheelers in fuel and firewood, and also to unload cargo. You can see where, like for instance, Celilo Rapids was a one-way trip. They would actually steam down the river, but it was nearly impossible to steam up. They could steam to a point, and then they'd have to winch or pull the boats up past the rapids. Normally, the steamboats didn't go back and forth over Cascade Rapids. And then obviously, Celilo Falls was a sheer falls, and there's no way a boat would be going over that. Along this route, there's numerous places for food and gas. Starting from Bonneville Dam, there's gas there, and it's Stevenson, Washington, obviously there's gas. And then when you get up into Bingen, Washington, white salmon area, lots of, and then after that it starts to get a little bit more desolate. The next township of any size is called Lyle, Washington, and that's kind of a very small town. Highway 14 has a lot of tunnels blasted through the basalt rock there along the Columbia Gorge. And some of them are pretty old with no inside masonry, just sheer holes in rocks. It's kind of interesting riding through those. One thing I really like about this ride is that the topography change. You start at the north end of the Willamette Valley, where you have lush green, wet land, and within 60 minutes you're in a dry, high plains climate. One thing interesting about Lisle is the historic hotel that's still there, ran and operated. That hotel was made back in 1905, and it popped up from the railroad stop that was there. And now it's a small bed and breakfast style hotel with 10 rooms. So along the way, we're passing Maryhill Winery. It was established in roughly 2001. It's one of the larger wineries on the Columbia River. They have a large amphitheater there that hold anywhere from 500 to a couple thousand people. And they have some pretty good sized concerts there. It's got a large wine tasting room that's pretty elaborate. And the nice thing about this, you can purchase a bottle of wine and drink it on the veranda and enjoy the views of the Columbia River. So we're going to be passing by Maryhill Museum. This started out as a mansion that was constructed by Samuel Hill, and he named it Maryhill after his daughter. And during the construction phase, they realized that the lack of water just made it impossible to build the little township that he wanted to build there. And so he gave up on it, and the construction of the mansion stopped in 1917, and it actually sat for a while. And one of his friends talked him into making the mansion into a museum. The interesting thing is the ceremony was attended by almost 2,000 people. And that's roughly 4 times the amount of the people in the whole county during that time period. It's well paved. The road, it's full of switchbacks, very sharp corners with steep drop-offs. But like I said, it's well maintained. So lastly, we're getting close to our end of our road. So as we pull into Stonehenge Memorial, this was a memorial that was built by Samuel Hill also. He built it in 1918 as a war memorial to World War I. You can see that this place is a very popular endpoint for day rides on motorcycles. This is during COVID, and there's still probably 50 motorcycles in the parking lot. So it's an exact replica of the Stonehenge Neolithic ruin in England. He originally was going to build it out of stone, but he found it was impractical. The type of stone around here, it just didn't work. And so he ended up making it out of cement. Also, his crypt is located just southwest down the hill from the Stonehenge Memorial. The Stonehenge Memorial is actually built on the township of the Maryhill town that he built. That burned down in a fire in the early 1900s and was never rebuilt. As you can see, this was almost a duplicate or exact size replica of the original Stonehenge. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, give me a thumbs up, and while you're there, hit that subscribe button so you can keep apprised of all the latest videos. And we'll see you on the next ride.